St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Doctor in the House brought to you with the compliments of La Place Salazar, Susie's Variety and Tapia Hospital.
At Tapia Hospital, caring and competent obstetric consultants who will see you safely from prenatal care through delivery with a team of excellent pediatric and anesthetic support. Tapia Hospital, where the patient safety comes first.
You are the guru of groceries. You have a heightened awareness for lower prices. You journey to find freshness and variety and quality brands, and you have an acquired taste for specialty items. You want to set a good example for your followers. And that's why your higher calling is Susie's Variety Store. 2 stores that beat the giants on pricing, variety, and quality. Susie's Variety, small store, big love. Located in Cantonment, Vieux Fort, and Bois d'Orange, Grosier. Telephone 458-4161.
It's delicious.
La Place Salazar is the true home of quality meat and deli products, selected and priced to suit every palate and pocket. We sell all cuts of meat, poultry and fish, from tasty lamb necks and succulent pork chops to lean dolphin and juicy top round steaks. Our deli items include turkey, ham, bacon, pork sausages, meat patties, chicken nuggets, deli ham and eggs, so that breakfast or that party is a breeze. And for your added convenience, we sell restaurant essentials and grocery items. So where's your next meal coming from? La Place Salazar, of course. La Place Salazar, Castries, Grosier, Beaufort, and Soufrière.
It's delicious.
It's now time for Doctor in the House live on Rev-Up St. Lucia, hosted by Dr. Leonard Suraj. Dr. Suraj, it's good to see you again. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Andre. Good evening, listeners, whether you are close or far, and those who are also reading us, who are following us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and X. We're streaming live on these platforms. Thank you very much, Andre, for having us around. I have with me...
And thank you for your service, Dr. Suraj.
Good. Right. I have with me Shiv, who has been here before. He's a pharmacist, and we'll be discussing some aspect of medicine, the role of a pharmacist in a small country like ours, and a few other things in terms of drugs, etc. But before I go there, I would like to say, to give a special thought for those of our colleagues in Jamaica who are being battered by a storm.
As we speak.
Mm-hmm. And it is ravaging Jamaica. And if you know about Jamaica well enough, you know that of all the many Caribbean islands, Jamaica has been the most welcoming, Jamaica and Guyana, the most welcoming country for other Caribbean people to their shores. They hold prominent jobs at the university or elsewhere. But it's a country that has done a lot and continue to do a lot for us. So I just feel that I hope that they go through this storm with minimum damage, although I doubt very much it's going to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
But be mindful and just be I'm asking the general public to just give a thought for them.
Indeed, Dr. Suraj.
Right. So
yes.
Having said that, Shiv, thank you very much for being here again, sir. And let us... I've heard many times patients say, oh, they're not taking that pills, they're tired of pills, they're tired of this medication, it has too many side effects. Because sometimes they read the long list of side effects, but don't fully understand that any time something is possible, legally you should write it down. So you'll find maybe even our safe Panadol, you find when you look at the leaflet, they say, oh, it can cause this, it can cause stomach problem. And so when somebody who's not knowledgeable on the subject reads that number of side effects, they get frightened about it. But it does not mean that everything you see written there will happen to you. And secondly, it doesn't mean that the gravity in which it happened would affect you adversely. But the writers have to write it, because if you are found to have a side effect of a medication and that was not written on the literature, you can be sued for it, and the company can be sued for it.
I'm going to ask a not too bright question, Dr. Suraj.
All
A
questions
not
are
too bright
questions.
question. Why must medication have side effects? Why is that?
Okay. Interesting you mentioned that, because I think
Because medication is supposed to make you feel better.
yeah, it does. make you
But
feel
sometimes
better.
you hear people say, well, the risks, right? The what you have to gain is a lot better
Yeah,
than the
yeah,
risks
yeah.
involved.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So
But it is something. Yeah. You want to take it up from there?
Yes, Dr. Suraj. Good evening to listeners. Thank you guys for having me here.
Good evening, Mr. Shiv.
Let me express the same sentiment in terms of our brothers and sisters in Jamaica. It's not a nice feeling. I've never experienced these things, and when I heard Category 5 and the rate at which they win and the
182 miles an
yeah,
hour.
this is unprecedented
So,
for the
yeah.
Caribbean.
Mhm.
Never heard of
Right.
that before.
Let's spare a thought for them, as you quite rightly said. Now, to the question of side effects. Remember, medication are substances. In fact, let me start by defining a drug. Right? When we speak of drug is anything that can alter the function in your body. Anything that you put into the body that alters a normal function can be described as a drug. Alcohol is a drug, tobacco is a drug, sometimes we refer to them as substances. And like anything else, you have a desired effect you want to achieve. Let's say in life in general, you always have like collateral damages in some cases when it's something serious. You make a decision in a business environment, and you expect to achieve X and Y objective out of it, but you don't always, it's not only X and Y, there are other things that will happen. And just so with a substance when you introduce it into the body. And people tend to want to think that natural substances don't have side effects, or natural drugs, natural remedies don't have side effects.
Now, I'm glad you went there.
Right.
So I'm listening to you very closely on that one. Yeah.
And,
Did you direct him there?
Yes.
and I would say, and that is a misconception, because the fact that it's a pharmacological agent, meaning that it exerts an effect on the body and alter the body's function. These are effects, and this may not be desirable effect. All the actions that it produces within the body, some might be pharmacologically desirable, in that you want it to cure or alleviate a particular condition. But in the process of doing that, something else can happen. And as you quite rightly said, the doctors are the risk versus benefit ratio.
Yes.
In many
The
instances,
benefits outweigh the risk.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and I'm sure we are all familiar with that. Again, growing up as children, our parents would make these concoctions for us. And I mean, I'm surprised to hear you say now, maybe now we're never too old to learn. When we took those things, the teas and things like that, nobody ever spoke about any side effects. That just never came up. So I think that has really, to a great degree, affected our view of pharmacological medication.
But let's put it this way.
But you have to, do you agree or disagree, Mr. Shiv, that
yeah.
when we took those teas and so on,
Right.
we never were told anything about side effects?
Because there is no information to substantiate
Mhm.
for anything that is undesirable in many instances. The point in these things is that you might have long-term manifestations of some of these undesirable effects. Long-term manifestation versus an effect that you see right away. Let's take a drug, for example. A drug is or a medicine that has been designed through the laboratory and has been released for sale and for use in the healthcare system. Let's classify them as let's say OTC, over-the-counter medication, or even prescription medication, versus the herbal products that we're talking about. These are already designed, all the side effects are known, it has been documented, clinical research has been done, approval has been given, and it's onto the market. So you know exactly what to expect. And with the herbal products, it's what they call traditional information that has been gathered by our foreparents over the year. They have seen the benefits and you use it. But there's nothing there to document what may have happened. I'm not saying that in all instances things happen. This is more like a diluted form of something you're using. But let's take a few leaves. You boil a few leaves together. We don't know what amount of leaves you're boiling, but there's something that is useful in those leaves that is giving us a desired effect, but there also might be some what we call water-soluble other substances that is coming out that can have some effect on your kidney over time. Or may have some other undesirable over time. The fact of the matter is not enough research has been done in that area and documented research to make it a fact. And before something become a medical fact, it has to go through all these processes. The issue we're having in many instances is that a lot of these trials and they say studies and trials find their way into mainstream media without finding their rightful place in the fabric of medical knowledge, so to speak. Because before these things can become medical fact, it has to go through all the processes, peer review, different people sit together, experts sit together, and they examine all these things, and then it becomes a medical fact, and it is right. It has its rightful place in the medical journal or whatever the case might be.
I'm curious to hear, Dr. Suraj, your take on this one. Because you're a doctor.
Yeah.
You're a doctor.
Yeah.
And once upon a time, you're not a doctor.
Right.
And I'm sure you grew up like everybody else.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And you were exposed to the same
And you
thing.
never heard about side effects. That never came up.
Yeah, well, side effects are the effects that are not the main effect you're looking for in a drug. Okay, and a drug is anything that will alter your physiology and have an effect on you. There are some side effects that they discover that has been so good it became the main effect
of the drug. Yeah.
A typical example is Viagra.
Explain that, please. Let me say.
The Pfizer Foundation was investigating a particular drug for angina, which is the narrowing of the artery in the heart, and chest pain and heart pain when the heart is under stress. So the vessels get narrow and limit the blood flow, and you get a heart attack. That's angina. But angina is the pain you get when the heart is overworked or the blood supply to the heart is limited. So you get a pain because of the heart muscle not getting enough oxygen. So that's angina. So Pfizer Foundation was investigating that angina with a particular drug, the Viagra drug. Then they discover, when they start doing it in males, they discover all the males had erection. And they say, oh. So they look at the side effect of Viagra as a heart medicine is promoting an erection. So they say, stop.
So was it Viagra at that time? It wasn't Viagra.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the name.
It's a chemical molecule, a substance they were investigating.
That's the name of it. Sildenafil.
Yeah.
That's the name of it. And so that's what they were investigating for heart, to find out that the side effect was so good. So they went back on the drawing board and make it the main effect. And so what's so interesting, eh?
Okay.
Yes, if I may comment there are lots of other medications like that. For example, they use medication for other purposes and they realize the amount of drowsiness that it causes. And actually they switch the use of that medication from the original use into use as a tranquilizer or as a sedative.
That's right, or sleeping pill,
like
that kind of thing.
Yeah. So there are many instances like that.
So, but to every medication, you see, the stringent rule that applies for accepting a medication, you'd be surprised that sometimes 5, 6, 7 years these companies are working on a drug to make it acceptable. But in our part of the world and in the American setup, it is the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration. They are the ones that are the vanguards of standards of medication. And before it's approved, before it is given out in the general market, FDA has to approve it.
Yeah, and maybe I could pitch in there to say, first of all, like you said, whether they were investigating, it wasn't Viagra, the name Viagra at the time. What happens when it starts? It starts at what they term a chemical moiety, a substance, a chemical, right? And then investigation go on and on for years and years and years. Now, with the advent of AI and computer technology and all of that, they fast track all these things. But previously, it used to take 10, 15, sometimes as much as 20 years to bring a drug on the market. And that brings me to a very interesting point of generic versus brand medication.
Right.
all those expenses that has been incurred in the process of bringing a viable medication onto the market is tremendous research and development, lots of investment, and therefore at the time when that is approved for sale and becomes something that is marketable, the companies that do all this investment quite rightly have to recover and recoup their investments, and everything has to do with returns on investment. Had it not been for that, medicine would not have advanced itself, because every year you have more and more situation develop it, and you need better and newer medication. And had it not been for these drug companies investing in these things, then research and development and medicine would have been stagnant. And so you find that when a medication is released, let's go back to the same example that Dr. Suraj used, Viagra, for example. When Viagra would have been released, they would have given them a trademark or a patent, let's say 10 to 15 years to recover that investment. However,
they alone can produce it.
They alone can produce it and name and give it that name. However, what is happening in the world today, sometime within 5 years, there's a copycat on the market, and that's where the generic comes in. And now Pfizer cannot monitor all these countries, all over the world. It's very difficult for them to do that. So sometimes instead of 10 to 15 years, within 5 years, if they don't recoup on their investment, that's it for them. There are a lot of generic drugs on the market. Now, and I'm not bashing generic drug in any way, but the fact of the matter is generic companies don't have the resources and the facility to invest in research and development. And that is why you find in Europe, and more so in America, a lot of the medication used there are brand name medication in order to promote research and development. And we in the third world country, we tend to fall back on the generics, which people consider quote unquote the cheaper version in sense of dollar value, but not necessarily in terms of quality or anything of that sort, right? It's the same quality, but being produced by another source. And when the patent would have expired, for example, let's say the 10 to 15 year expired, then any drug company would be allowed to produce that chemical and that drug, but they wouldn't be able to give it a trademark name. They can give it another name, but it should be of the same standard and the same quality as the original. However, having said that though, it reminds me of the COVID situation with the vaccine, and so because that was such a national and international and a global scale situation, they were trying not to allow drug companies to benefit from this, one or two drug companies to benefit from it, and that is when, in order to avoid a private company investing into something and benefiting from it fully, government intervention had to come in. So there are a lot of governments around the world who put their resources and help in the development of vaccine and so forth for a situation like that. So it does not become the sole property of one company which can exploit the people and exploit and extract financial benefit from it to the disadvantage of the entire population, the entire world. So that's where the government versus the private sector investment tend to take way.
Don't lose your trend of thought, but I wanted to explain something to you that you'd asked. The Viagra, the name Viagra, when they decide to make it into erectile functioning drug, they use the word Viagra because it has two components to it: virility and the Niagara Falls, the power of the Niagara. So that is how it obtained.
Dr. Suraj, you sure you didn't make that up?
No. That's how the name came up, and it was approved in 1980 something. The drug was approved by FDA.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, 1998. Sorry.
Yes, I remember that.
Approval, yeah. And they had to give it a name, as you said, because the name, when they were working on it, it wasn't Viagra. It was a different name.
Well, as you mentioned FDA, maybe you can take the discussion along that line where regulations are concerned. Because the drugs, the prescription medication that are approved for use in medical facilities and so that comes under prescription or OTC, the companies that come up with these products have to prove the effectiveness, the safety, and all these other things that go along with it, and then finally gets approval. So that's where the Food and Drug Administration of the US, and they have other such parallel organization in Europe, Canada, and elsewhere, they grant the authority or the approval for these things. But the herbal products, as we mentioned earlier on, the herbal product, what we call herbal products here are really considered dietary supplements in those countries. In the US, it's called dietary supplements. In Europe, they call it traditional medicine.
And by the way, when these natural products have been advertised, You know, they actually say no side effects. You aware of that?
No, they should not. They should not. It's illegal. It's illegal for them to bring this product on the market and say no side effect or side effect free or has been proven to do this. There are a lot of cautionary labels that they have to put, and you will find them using terms like
all natural,
to promote cardiovascular health, to boost your immune system. And you'll see they even have something to the effect, a disclaimer saying this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any particular condition. These are all legal requirements that they have to affix on these labels when they bring it out for sale. And if any product has something that it's as good as a prescription drug, is as good as that drug, or it's absolutely no side effect or side effect free, that's illegal.
So you say that's not
illegal.
only misleading, it's actually illegal.
It's actually illegal. It would not even find its way on the market unless it sneaked its way through and somebody picked it up later on post-marketing surveillance or whatever the case might be. It should not be like that. It should have these general terms, not intended to treat or cure or diagnose any condition. Like, improve cardiovascular health, boost your immune system, and new terminologies like that.
Well, I call them wellness medicine. There's sickness medicine and wellness medicine. If you're well, it keeps you well. It's a supplement. It adds to you, but it is not intended to treat any particular condition.
And
that's interesting.
And the old adage applies here: prevention is better than cure. So you see, depending on which side of your fence you sit, and people must understand that there's a role for both aspects, traditional and conventional medicine, alongside contemporary medicine. What I consider contemporary medicine is those that are scientifically proven and that we use in the healthcare settings and stuff, right? Traditional medicine would be those that our foreparents would have given to us, the teas you mentioned and the herbal remedies and this dietary supplement, and so they work alongside each other. There should be a place for each in the healthcare delivery system in a country.
So Dr. Suraj, how do you get past the fears of your patients when it comes to this whole issue of side effects and so on? How do you get past that? How do you get because by your own admission you said at the beginning of the program that people complain about those things. I just take the medication, it makes me feel this way, that way. How do you convince somebody that this drug?
See, you take the minibus from Castries to Beaufort, or you take your car and drive down. You never say to yourself, one of the side effects of driving is that I can die on the road.
Good. I like that.
Because the possibility of dying on the road is so small, meaning that you've done it every day, twice a week, 3 times a week, and you never die. So you take it as a given. But the drug companies and the regulatory mechanism for drug has far more responsibility than that. They would insist you tell them what is the percentage of people that have died doing that, or what is the likelihood of this drug making you nausea, vomiting, and they have to know you have done all the research. Now, clinical research is far more complicated than researching in a lab where you mix 2 chemicals and see what they do. Clinical research requires that you protect yourself or the patient from any adverse effect, that they have a compensation if anything happens, and that you document the manner in which you carry the research. The person on which you're doing the clinical research must be fully disclosed, must know everything about why you're giving them what you're giving, and they have agreed voluntarily to take part in that
research, right? But in addition to that, as Dr. Suraj mentioned, that there's a system by which they go about doing this thing. You have clinical trials and you have clinical studies, and inside the clinical study you have what they call double-blind studies. A double-blind study is like, for example, let's say 3 of us volunteer to be a part of this research, right? And let's say they try in a substance and they inject us with the substance. Neither us nor the person who is administering that injection knows what is inside that injection. So it could be distilled water. Some of us gets the medication, some of us getting distilled water in that injection. right? That just to take away the personal biases and so. So you have the studies and the trials, and when it becomes clinical, it means that now it's in a setting where human beings and so are involved in it. In the beginning, it could have been done on an animal. That's why we have guinea pigs, and you would have heard those terms before. So it started with animal, and then when they see some progress or they see some hope here, then they move it to the next level where humans are involved in vitro and in vitro trials, in live situations, not in test tube again, but it's happening live in a person's body, and so on and so forth. And when all of that is finished and they tabulate the result and they can see progress again, they take it to another level. And keep going and going, and then I think the last stage of it is when a group of experts would sit together and peer review, reviewed by all experts from in that area, and they review it and they said yes, okay, and they make a decision on it, and then approval would finally be granted for marketing.
We'll have to take a little break.
Okay.
This is Doctor in the House live on Rev-Up Slu 95.9 FM, brought to you the compliments of Laplace Salazar, Susie's Variety, and Tapia Hospital.
Tapia Hospital Radiology Department offers 24-hour service. We provide you with X-ray, CT scans, and ultrasound imaging using the most modern equipment that produces the best images for your medical attention. Call the Radiology Unit at 459-2201. Tapia Hospital, where the patient safety comes first.
Are the guru of groceries. You have a heightened awareness for lower prices. You journey to find freshness and variety and quality brands, and you have an acquired taste for specialty items. You want to set a good example for your followers. And that's why your higher calling is Susie's Variety Store. 2 stores that beat the giants on pricing, variety, and quality. Susie's Variety, small store, big love. Located in Cantonment, Vieux Fort, and Bois d'Orange, Grozier. Telephone 458-4161.
It's delicious. Laplace Salazar is the true home of quality meat and deli products, selected and priced to suit every palate and pocket. We sell all cuts of meat, poultry and fish, from tasty lamb necks and succulent pork chops to lean dolphin and juicy top round steaks. Our deli items include turkey, ham, bacon, pork sausages, meat patties, chicken nuggets, deli ham and eggs, so that breakfast or that party is a breeze. And for your added convenience, we sell restaurant essentials and grocery items. So where's your next meal coming from? Laplace Salazar, of course. Laplace Salazar, Castries, Groselet, Beaufort, and Soufrière. It's delicious.
Welcome back to Doctor in the House live on Rev-Up Slu, hosted by Dr. Leonard Suraj. Dr. Suraj, is back to you.
Thank you once again, Andre, and the listeners. Thank you for staying tuned as we go through our discussion on drugs and medicine, and entering a very important phase in when is a medication fit enough for it to be released in the market as a drug.
I have an important question.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Shiv just spoke about these clinical trials and so on, involving probably hundreds or even sometimes thousands of people. Who guards the guard? Who's responsible for ensuring that what these people are saying, these drug companies and so on, when they say they have these clinical trials, who is monitoring to ensure that we're getting truth from those people?
Let me put it this way. There is some amount of what they call self-control, self-management, in the sense that if a drug company or an organization, let's take drug company out of it, it can be a public sector, it could be a government institution, they're looking to elevate medicine. They're looking to move on, to find better substances, to find better things or things that are needed.
Even the snake venom and antidote for it.
So there is some kind of self-regulation, if I should put it that way, that you want to make sure that when you produce something and you bring it there, it is safe, it is effective, and it serves the purpose for which it is intended to. So that's one aspect of it. And of course, in any situation of that nature, there's always the guardrails are always there. And one of the guardrails, for example, is the same thing I just mentioned. One of the steps in the process is where all these experts from all different denominations, all different territories from around the world would sit there and do their own examination.
You mean the peer review?
Yes, the peer review. That too is a form of regulation, So
let me put a different spin on it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you discover that you as a researcher said that I think that Viagra is a good agent for erectile dysfunction. And so you produce it and then you have it on the market. Then somebody else found that no, but that's not working. Then they question your research. They said, well, in your research, what you said you did, I have duplicated that, but I'm not finding that answer. So the onus is on you to prove that your research was authentic. And if you do any cocoa macaque with it, it will be show up because you'll not get the effect. So the research methods, the manner in which research is conducted. For one thing, if you're doing research, you start with a null hypothesis. I want to know if Viagra will give you an erection. That's what you're proving. And then it's first of all, so you have now to prove that from all the tests you're doing. And if somebody was to repeat the test in Timbuktu, in wherever, they should find the same results.
And the onus is on you.
And if and if you don't find it, then your research capability and the university from which you are doing research will be held in very low esteem. Useless.
Yeah, and that's where the organizations like the European medical whatever organization, the equivalent of the Food and Drug Administration in the US, these are really the watchdog organization on behalf of the. But I do understand your question, and that is a credible question because of the way the world is going today, right? For example, there is nowadays integrity and credibility, and sometimes these things as if they have no meaning again, right? And the world is so much materialistic, and it's all about so much about money and so
profit and
profit, you know. So yes, in from that perspective, because when a research project is being paid for, it becomes the result becomes a product. If you know what I mean. If it's being paid for, then they can determine what result comes out of it. They can also shape the narrative that comes out after the and instances. There were instances in the past. History has shown us that sometimes you see something comes out on the media that this thing is very good for like zinc lozenges is something that comes to my mind readily. There was a time when zinc lozenge was touted as one of the take a cup of zinc lozenges for your flu and that kind of thing. And after billions of dollars of sales took place, then it was realized, you know what? After a long and further examination, they realized that a lot of these claims were not really true. By then, a lot of things happened. So yes, so what I'm saying is a credible question in the sense that you always need to have watchdog organization, you always need to have those guardrails in place, and because of the way the world is today, everything centers around money and corruption.
And as you said, as you were asking earlier on, these you can always if it is found that the claim for this medication is false, they can always pull back the drug.
Yeah, we have post-marketing surveillance. And that happens a lot with well, not a lot, but that's one of the regulatory means for the same herbal remedies and these dietary supplements I'm talking about. They don't have to prove any effectiveness, but they cannot make certain claims as we've discussed earlier on. But when the drug is on the market, is after the drug is marketed, then these watchdog organizations would do the post-marketing surveillance, and if anything untoward or anything dangerous or for any reason it does not live up to the standard of safety, and so they pull it off the market right away. So the surveillance and the watchdog and the regulatory aspect does not only happen before marketing, it happens after marketing as well. When we dispense medication, when doctors prescribe medication, we are under obligation to fill out a form from time to time. If you find something is consistently, you're using this medication consistently and you're finding a certain issue with it, the onus is upon us as professionals to give that feedback and send it up the chain, up the ladder, so it gets to the right authority, and then and that's the way. As a result of that, a lot of recalls are happening, and people tend to recalls are something that people should look with in a positive way. When they hear a product is being recalled, they say, "Oh my God, it started to blast the company." Right? What kind of product they send out? Look what could have happened, and blah blah blah. Or certain things happen to a few people and stop, and they say. But the fact that recall took place, that is something that we should feel very proud about, to know that our interest is still being looked after. if that recall had not taken place, what could have happened? So the fact that the recall is happening, it means that there are mechanisms in place to look out and to check out for these things even after it has been marketed. So when you hear something is recalled, don't view it negatively. See it as a system is working on our behalf.
But the reason people look at it negatively is because there are other companies, and people say to themselves, "Boy, who knows what next is out there before it's recalled."
Yeah, that's a fair concern. I mean, yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing though, something you may not even think happens. If you want to do any medical research in St. Lucia, you can't just pick up yourself and start doing research. You have to send a copy of that research to the medical council. The medical council in St. Lucia has an ethics committee that looks into research. So you can't just decide, especially when it comes to interfering with human, whereby you're doing a clinical research, anything to do, whether it is to ask people questions or to use medication or whatever. And there is a team, a committee at the medical council that deals with the ethical aspect of research. So it is not, although when we talk about it, it seems like a big country thing, but it happened right there in our yard. So that we have this surveillance that you have to look at, you have to submit your research project, you have to submit all the documents to see if you're violating any of the rights of the human person.
But do you think, Dr. Suraj and Mr. Shiv, that this has been properly regulated, meaning that there's one or two people in the profession who have their own ideas as to what works and what doesn't work, and maybe doing things that doesn't conform to what is acceptable? I think we saw something like that during COVID, didn't we? Where other things were being touted as effective to deal with COVID. You recall that without mentioning names or anything.
You remember also. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me come in there. You see, what we have is two variants here. We have what we call evidence-based medicine. That's what the doctors, pharmacists, the nurses, and the conventional, the contemporary medicine goes by. What we call evidence-based medicine. And they operate within certain protocols, within certain, you have ways and means that things must be done. Your license is at stake if you go out of these conventions and these protocol and these generally accepted standard of practice within a legal framework and stuff. But on the other hand, like I was saying earlier on, you have the conventional medicine, right? And there is a role for conventional medicine, but to close one down completely only in favor of the other, there's also some argument there, because we always hear people talking about big pharma, and big pharma is all about money, right? That's a negative way of looking at it. I've said earlier on, has it not been for big pharma, we would not been where we are in medicine. I've made a living out of big pharma, or out of that way of doing medicine. But I also believe the preventative aspect is also important, and that is why I tend to, when I talk to patients, when I talk to people, to try to get them to look at preventative ways first. And when all hell breaks loose, or when you get to a certain point that nothing else can be done for you here, then obviously you have to go. But prevention is always better than cure. So I'm saying they're two different. The one is traditional and conventional, right? And the other one is what we call contemporary medicine, which is based on scientific facts and evidence-based.
Yeah, and I was going to talk a little bit about
because I heard you say what should be done by practitioners.
No, basically the protocol that exists is that if you want to do research,
right?
But if the research is involving human, I'm not sure about animal. Say if you want to do an experiment on rats and dogs and things. But if you want to do experiment, you're testing something on human. You need to, that research must have the clearance from an ethics committee. The ethics committee have guidelines which is designed by the medical council. Usually they take it off from GMC, General Medical Council, somewhere else, but they would have had this protocol fairly standardized. And these are what the ethics group will go through. They will look at your research, submit. You say you're going to use these tablets 3 times a day, use it twice a day, use it once a day, and they would want to know all about the medication, how you propose to do it, and what kind of suffering you bring to the person, what are the side effects of what you're doing. So a very extensive, and that is,
That's
and
why
they
you
will
know-
call you in, huh?
That's why I don't even have any research like that of that nature happening in small countries like this. Nobody would want to take on something of that
kind of
nature,
thing.
you know.
But from time to time they do it. If it is
Yeah.
because I wanted to do some research on the level of noise that the average young person is exposed to when they have their little Walkman or when they have their phone
And the public transport
and
as
the
well.
public transport, because they have this thing in their ears and they alone know how loud it is.
Yeah.
So I was trying to design something to see. You meet the person and tell them, and politely, you tell them, well, can you let me see what level of sound you're applying? But you'd have your sound level meter on your phone, and all you have to do is to take it from the air and rest it on the phone. That's all. You don't interfere with them. But that, because you are entering a discussion with the person, and you may have to explain to them why you're doing the research, you have to go through
The
ethics
medical
committee for
council,
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
And,
my
yes,
go ahead.
Yeah. And then we need to draw the difference between ethics and legality.
Mhm.
Ethics is a generally accepted standard within which a profession must maintain itself, and you're expected to do that as a member of that profession. But you cannot legislate ethics. Ethics, sorry. The legal aspect, if you go with out of the bounds of what is legally permissible, then you can be sanctioned for that. So ethics is like a little milder form of.
So these are the guidelines for that. So yes, so it can happen in countries like ours. It doesn't have to be high tech, but everything you have to get ethics clearance to do it. And even people coming in, not necessarily us. There are companies from overseas, maybe universities that
Want to
to
do
which we are affiliated with, want to do research in St. Lucia. And remember, all our research, St. Lucia is one of the main countries with the most knowledge on sickle cell. A lot of research has been done, and as a result, you find that this research was done here, and they would have passed through ethics committee, even though it's not through us, but through their own. Say, if they belong to University of Bristol, coming down to St. Lucia, when they designed their research, they would have had to get some kind of ethical approval from their university, and then similarly here.
Let me go back. You did mention something about what happened here during COVID. I have an idea what you're referring to without even getting too involved in it. But I'm interested. I have not followed through on that. It would be interesting for me. I would have to find out exactly what became of that, because during that time, what was happening? There's a lot of controversial thing happening throughout the world,
Yes.
where the belief or the perception was that the drug companies monopolizing this whole thing for their own benefit, right? Because I too subscribe to that notion at certain point. The fact that they were not allowing people to do things, natural things that were proven to be effective in many instances. See many anecdotal and stories of and one of the things that really got me peeved is when they mandated that young children should be given this vaccine. I mean, when I'm not anti-vax. Before, let me just make that clear, because I took all the vaccines. I have smallpox, for every damn thing I took to get where I am. And we all know the usefulness as medical people with vaccines. But in that one in particular, and the way it was being handled, and the quickness and the rapidity with which it was coming onto the market, to the exclusion of every other thing. We were desperate during COVID. The war was desperate for something. And prevention was not, to me, was not given the window of opportunity that it deserves. And everybody who come up with something else was shut down very quickly. And the perception was that they want to monopolize. And even when research was done in India, and when they tried to send vaccines in plane load of vaccine and everything. They were sanctioned for that. Just like when AIDS drugs become known, all over, this is documented that India produced so many of these things and was sent it all over Africa, yeah. And they were sanctioned for that at the World Trade Organization. Because when they do that and they give out all these things freely in the interest of humanity and mankind, it was cutting somebody's check somewhere along the line. So that's the whole incident is debatable, and I do believe that I don't know what the result was, but I have my take on that. Put it that way.
Yeah, and well, I suppose that blends very much into what I want to talk about next. So we were saying earlier on that a company like Pfizer decide they want to investigate, they want to look at one particular drug, and so they spend a lot of money, a lot of research over many years to develop that. So as a result, if it is approved by FDA, they are given a patent for X number of years, after which any company can do it. Well, any company, there is no restriction. Any company that feel they can do it will do it. Now, as a result, if about 10 different companies do it, some will be more reliable than others. Not all the companies are the same level. And so that is our problem. Which companies you trust? Is there an accreditation process that allows some companies to be better than others? How do we check if the effectiveness of the medication from this company is equal to the next company? Because we know that Pfizer is the gold standard on that. Now, and Pfizer will not lower its price. Hardly ever. They might not lower the price. But the cheaper companies will do it. But if you are a pharmacist or a manager of a pharmacy who is importing drugs, you might find different prices of the same medication. How can you know the reliability of the...
Yeah, okay, well, let me answer that question. Prices has to do with a number of things. The whole supply chain, duties, consumption, which country it lands in, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes you have a lot of these medication being sent to different part of the world, and the drug companies would have given deals because of the economic situation. But shrewd businessmen would actually go buy them from this place and then reship them to some other location, etc., etc. But there are many reputable manufacturing houses. There are brand name companies like the Pfizer, the Abbott, the AstraZeneca, and all of these are top-notch companies, and they tend to buy up other companies, and a lot of merger and acquisition, I think, takes place over the years. But those companies are reputable companies. I guess the question is now, in terms of the generic products, and I keep saying that there are proliferation of generic companies all over the world, and the onus is on the person, the professional, who is doing the procurement for an organization. I was in charge of bringing in medication for MNC for a number of years.
Okay.
I am still have some role in that kind of situation right now. And every single morning I sit at my desk. That's why I say self-regulation is such an important thing. Every morning I sit at my desk to do that. The first thing that comes to my mind is this medication of quality. How can I prove that? How can I ensure that what I'm bringing here is something that would not harm anybody? Because don't forget also, there's what they call the illegal drug channel and the counterfeit drugs that are infiltrating the normal supply chain. And that is something we don't have any control over. So every single day you do that. And the reason being is that sometimes I might fall sick and I might have to go and purchase that same medication. If not me, a very close friend, a relative of mine, So as a professional, you're self-regulating. That becomes part of you to ensure that one of the first consideration, we don't look at price. You look at the companies first, who you're dealing with, and that like we spoke the last time about ECDS, and we do the best practices.
That's right.
Who these companies are, how many years they've been in existence, where else the product are being sold. If they're sold throughout the Caribbean, you shut your eye and said, okay, Apotex, for example, was a very good generic company. Ranbaxy from India, and so on and so forth. From the time you hear these companies, you don't even have to think any further. But when a new product is confronting you there, then you have to do your due diligence.
Right.
So self-regulations become very important. quite apart from what else might exist in the government structure and thing to ensure that. But you as a professional, the onus is on you.
Yes.
That's where your professionalism comes in. Yeah.
Very well put. I see you look at your clock.
I saw you looking too.
Well, did you notice that we never had a chance to invite the general public to call in a program?
Oh, we didn't do that today.
No, we didn't do that today
because the internet is down. Yes.
But I hope that the listeners were educated in what we were saying. I know we said sometimes that we said things that are a little highfalutin and maybe requiring a bit of understanding of medicine. However, the issue is a reassurance that there is a lot of checks and balances, and that's the main purpose of this particular conversation. There's a lot of checks and balances in when a drug is offered to the general public. So, and all the side effects you see may not be all related to you and may not happen 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that these are the messages I would like to leave. Anything she would like to say to the general public?
Yeah, I just want to touch back on that one aspect that we mentioned about the side effects, that some herbal remedies are side effect free and these things. So in concluding, I want to say to people, a lot of these products on the market, I encourage the use of them because I do use them from time to time, but there are certain precautions that people need to take. If you have kidney issue, for example, and liver problems,
right,
you need to be careful about that. If you are on multiple medication from the doctor for different purposes, you need to be careful about what herbal remedies you take, because the fact remains that let's take ginkgo biloba that people use for memory and things. It thins the blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a blood thinner the doctor prescribes for you, one could potentiate the effect of the other. If you had kidney and liver condition, the kidney and liver are responsible for eliminating foreign substances, including medication, out of your body. And if they don't function properly, their inability to excrete the substance can lead to build-up of toxic levels and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So there are persons who need, and the third one I have to mention is pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, because a lot of these drugs and medication tend to traverse into the breast milk.
That's right.
And you don't know what the impact would be on your kid and the pregnancy and so. So I just want to say that first of all, this idea not have a side effect free is not entirely true. And secondly, there are persons who need to be very careful and cautious when you're going to choose some of these supplements and herbal remedies and so.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also worthwhile for somebody to Google the side effects of natural medicines, etc. Because we have things like manchanil. You know manchanil?
No.
Manchanil is a little, it looks like a little fruit. By the seaside it grows. And it is one of the most corrosive thing that you can eat. If you bite it once, peel out all your mouth. There's a patois name for it, but it is often, so it's a natural fruit. And if you didn't know, and many tourists who didn't know thought it was like a guava. They eat it. Yeah, and it can peel. Even the leaves can peel your skin off. So there are a lot of dangerous stuff in there as well that we don't think about. So once again, thank you very much, listeners, for listening and following what we are saying, and thank you, Shiv and Andre, for allowing me to be here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suraj, and thank you, Mr. Shiv. And as always, Dr. Suraj, I have to say thank you for your service.
You're
Thank you
most
very
welcome,
much.
sir.
Yes.
It's a service for country.
Okay, you've been listening to and viewing Doctor in the House live on Rev-Up Slu 95.9 FM. Listen again and view again next week, Tuesday, same time, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. for another Doctor in the House with Dr. Leonard Suraj, with the compliments of La Place Salazar, Susie's Variety, and Tapio Hospital.
At Tapio Hospital, we operate a 24-hour emergency service for all your urgent healthcare needs. Our qualified medical specialist will be on hand to ensure that you receive the best of care. Call us at 459-2617. Tapio Hospital, where the patient safety comes first.
You are the guru of groceries. You have a heightened awareness for lower prices. You journey to find freshness and variety and quality brands, and you have an acquired taste for specialty items. You want to set a good example for your followers. And that's why your higher calling is Susie's Variety Store. 2 stores that beat the giants on pricing, variety, and quality. Susie's Variety, small store, big love. Located in Cantonment, Vieux Fort, and Bois d'Orange, Gros-Islet. Telephone 458-4161.
La Place Salazar is the true home of quality meat and deli products, selected and priced to suit every palate and pocket. We sell all cuts of meat, poultry and fish, from tasty lamb necks and succulent pork chops to lean dolphin and juicy top round steaks. Our deli items include turkey, ham, bacon, pork sausages, meat patties, chicken nuggets, deli ham and eggs, so that breakfast or that party is a breeze. And for your added convenience, we sell restaurant essentials and grocery items. So where's your next meal coming from? La Place Salazar, of course. La Place Salazar, Castries, Gros-Islet, Vieux Fort, and Soufrière.
Rev-Up St. Lucia is located at Unit 4, Gablewoods Mall, Sunny Acres, Castries, St. Lucia. Tune in on 95.9 FM or online at revupslu.com. Call the studio at